Hello dear students, this is Samadrita Ma'am from My Language, My Learning, and today I welcome you to the history lesson of the early humans or the evolution of the early humans. In this chapter, we will be reading about two important terms, that is prehistory and history. This is very important for everyone to know what prehistory is. Now, the term prehistory refers to that period of time in history when there was no recorded documents or the situation was not civilized enough to record documents in written form or in script. So, this period that consists of the Paleolithic Age, the Mesolithic Age, and the Neolithic Age, this belongs to prehistory because during that time, the early humans were not civilized enough to write down and preserve those materials in history. So now what we will do, we will see about each and every feature of this age. But before that, we also need to know about the term history. The term history refers to whatever has happened in the past and they have the past recorded in a written format. So let's start. So the early men comprised of three ages. The evolution of the early men basically comprised of three ages: the Paleolithic age, the Mesolithic, and the Neolithic age. The Paleolithic or the Mesolithic age and the Neolithic age, these three combined together were forming the prehistory. Here we will learn about the life and lifestyle of the Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and the Neolithic men. First, we come across the Paleolithic age, which lasted from 5 lakh BC to 10,000 BC. The Paleolithic age is also known as the Old Stone Age. This age belonged to the Pleistocene era, which means during this time the earth was very cold, it was frozen. This age belongs to the Ice Age. So the Paleolithic age or Old Stone Age is a period in prehistory distinguished by the original development of the stone tools that covers 99% of the period of human technological prehistory. It extends from the earliest known of stone tools by hominins, 3.3 million years ago, to the end of the Pleistocene era, that is 11,650 CALPP. So, the Paleolithic age in Europe. Now we will learn about the Paleolithic age in different parts of the world. So the Paleolithic age in Europe preceded the Mesolithic age, although the date of the transition varies geographically by several thousand years. During the Paleolithic age, hominins grouped together in small societies such as bands and subsisted by gathering plants, fishing, and hunting, or by scavenging wild animals. The Paleolithic age is characterized by the use of knapped stone tools, although at the time humans also used wood and bone tools. Other organic commodities were adapted for use as tools, including leather and vegetable fibers. However, due to rapid decomposition, these have not survived to any great degree. About 50,000 years ago, a marked increase in the discovery of artifacts occurred. Now, where this occurred? For the first time, the evidences of Paleolithic age was found in Africa. What was found there? The bones of the early humans. The bone artifact and the first art appeared in the archaeological record. The first evidence of human fishing is also noted from places like Blombos Cave in Africa. Archaeologists classify artifacts of the last 50,000 years into many different categories, such as projectile points, engraving tools. Then we have knife blades and also drilling and piercing tools. So all these were basically used for hunting purpose, because why? The Paleolithic age men sustained themselves on hunting, fishing, and gathering fruits from the forests. Humankind gradually evolved from early members of the genus Homo, such as the Homo habilis, who used simple stone tools, into anatomically modern humans as well as behaviorally modern humans by the Upper Paleolithic. Conditions during the Paleolithic Age went through a set of glacial and interglacial periods in which the climate periodically was very cold, and gradually it started become very warm in the Mesolithic and the Neolithic ages. Archaeological and genetic data suggest that the source populations of Paleolithic humans survive in sparsely wooded areas and disperse through areas of high primary productivity while avoiding dense forest cover. By 50,000 to 40,000 BP, the first humans set foot in Australia. And in Europe, they lived at 61° north latitude. So here we can see how the Paleolithic age started in various countries of the world. Now, what type of tools did they use? They primarily used tools and weapons from stone, made from stones. And the most important type of stone tool discovered was a stone ball called spheroid. It was totally made up of stone. So old Stone Age people, they used to hunt animals by attacking them from a great distance. So this type of tool, it helped to point at those animals like an arrow and kill them at one go. Now, why did these people move from one place to the other? The Paleolithic people moved from one place to another because they had to sustain themselves. Suppose they settled in a particular geographical area and exploited all the natural resources of that place. For example, the animals, the fruits, and the vegetables of that particular geographical area. So after a certain period of time, they were unable to sustain a large population for food. So they had to leave that place and they had to move a great distance for hunting and fishing and to sustain themselves. And where did they used to live? They used to live in the caves and rock shelters. And this age primarily belonged to the Pleistocene era and the Ice Age. And what were the people of this age known as? The people of this age were known as Homo sapiens. And they were primarily hunters and food gatherers. So this is how the Paleolithic age was. So now next we will learn the Mesolithic age or the Middle Stone Age. Now, from the two diagrams, we can see that the Middle Stone Age had a lot of variety in their tools. In the Paleolithic age, what we have seen is the stone tools were very blunt. But in the Mesolithic age, we can see that the stone tools gradually became smaller and sharper. And what were these stone tools known as? These stone tools were known as the microliths. So what is the main important feature of the Mesolithic age? The most important feature of the Mesolithic age or the Middle Stone Age is that the tools were called microliths. And how long did this period last? This period lasted from 10,000 BC to 6,000 BC. Now, the Mesolithic age was basically a transitional period between the Paleolithic and the Neolithic age. Now, why? Because at this time, the people were gradually advancing from the primitive stage to a little bit modern stage where they could live a little bit better life. In India, the important sites of Mesolithic culture were Karnataka, Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, these parts. In this age, the climate became warmer and drier. As we know, in the Paleolithic age, the climate was quite cold. So from the Mesolithic age, what happened? The ice melted and the climate became gradually warmer and drier. And what else did the humans evolve in this age? They also learned to tame animals. That is, the domestication of animals occurred in this age. And also what began? The growing of crops during this period became prevalent. And also another thing which was very notable in this period was that the rock paintings. The rock paintings have been found where in Uttar Pradesh, Bhimbetka, Madhya Pradesh, which tell us about the life of the people of this age. The tools of this age were called microliths, as we have already seen in the paragraph above. The tools of this age were called microliths. Most of the tools were made up of bone and also wood or horn of the animals. These were the organic components which have already been decomposed. They helped in animal hunting because they were much sharper and smaller than the tools of the old Stone Age. The most important invention of this period was the invention of fire, and also what the domestication of animals and also the gradual beginning of agriculture. Although culturally and technologically they were more or less similar with the Paleolithic people, Mesolithic cultures developed diverse local adaptations to special environment. So what happened? The Mesolithic hunter achieved a greater efficiency than the Paleolithic hunters and was able to exploit a wide range of animal and vegetable food resources. Immigrant Neolithic farmers probably absorbed many indigenous Mesolithic hunters and fishers, and some Neolithic communities seem to have composed entirely of Mesolithic peoples who adopted Neolithic equipment. So we can say that the transition of this age was in quite an advanced stage. Because the Mesolithic is characterized by a suite of material culture, its timing varies depending upon location. In Northwest Europe, for instance, the Mesolithic period began about 8000 BCE after the end of the Pleistocene era, that is about 2,600,000 to 11,700 years ago, and lasted until about 2700 BCE. Elsewhere, the dates of the Mesolithic period is different. So this is how we know that the culture of Mesolithic age spread across the different parts of the world. And what was the most important invention of this period, which has changed the history altogether? That is the invention of fire. Due to the invention of fire in the later ages, these people were able to cook food, make pottery, that we will learn in the other slide. And what is basically the Mesolithic period? Is the period between the upper Paleolithic and the Neolithic. Now, the terms Paleolithic and Neolithic were introduced by who? John Lubbock in his work Prehistoric Times in 1865. The additional Mesolithic category was added as an intermediate category by Hodder Westrop in 1866. The Mesolithic age, which means Middle Stone Age, was the second part of the Stone Age. This age is characterized by the use of microliths or small bladed stone tools. Now, some important facts that we need to know about the Mesolithic age is that in India, it spanned around 9000 BC to 4000 BC. So the date here mentioned is approximately covered all over the world. But now I am describing in India what happened. The people of this age lived on hunting, fishing, and food gathering initially, but later on they also domesticated the animals. The characteristic tools of this age were microliths. The people of this age practiced painting. The paintings depicted birds, animals, and human beings. A considerable amount of rock paintings have been found in Bhimbetka in Madhya Pradesh, which is very important. Mesolithic site. Mesolithic sites have also been found in Rajasthan, south of the river Krishna, central and eastern parts of India, and also in southern Uttar Pradesh. Bagor in Rajasthan and Adamgarh in Madhya Pradesh are two most important examples of Mesolithic sites. In northwestern Europe, however, the Mesolithic period lasted from 10,000 to 4000 BC. In Central Europe, it lasted from 10,000 to 5500 BC. In East Asia, it lasted from 10,000 to 6,000 BC. And in Southeast Europe, it lasted from 10,000 to 7,000 BC. In the Middle East and elsewhere, it lasted from 10,000 to 8,000 BC. In India, it spanned around 9,000 to 4,000 BC. And it had some characteristics of the Paleolithic age and also some characteristics of the Neolithic age. And because it was a transitional age, as we have already studied. Now, the length of the stone tools of this age was That is the length of the microliths of this age was 1 to 8 centimeter. And they were baked, blade, chord, point, triangle, lunate, and trapeze. They were the main Mesolithic tools. However, some tools used earlier like scraper, burin, and choppers also continued during this age. So we can say that around about 10,000 BC, the climate gradually became warmer again. So the many of the big animals went away with the cold weather to the northern part of the world. And some animals like the mammoth, elk, woolly rhino, and bison became extinct due to the increase in temperature. They could not sustain themselves. Gradually, the Netherlands were covered with forests which were rich in animals and plants. These changes were the beginning of a new age, that is the Middle Stone Age. And it is this period that prehistory in Archean begins. So these are by far the main important features of this age, which comprised of some of the features in the Old Stone Age, that is the Paleolithic Age, and also some of the features of the upcoming next age, that is the Neolithic Age. And the climate also became warmer. So here in the second picture, we can see that how the Paleolithic men who used to live in caves, but here we can see that the caves were given a different form. And they also started the use of fire. So we can see they were gradually little bit advancing in their ways of life. Now, next we come to another very important age, that is the New Stone Age, that is the Neolithic Age, which lasted approximately around 6000 BC to 3000 BC. Now, what are the main important inventions during this age? That was the pottery. And why was it possible? Because of the discovery of fire. Now, what happened during this age? When the climate of the earth became even more warm. Like the Old Stone Age, the people of the New Stone Age also used stone tools. They domesticated animals and started actively growing crops like wheat and barley. The Neolithic Revolution was also called the Agricultural Revolution, which marked the transition basically in human history from small nomadic bands of hunters, gatherers to larger agricultural settlements and early civilization. The Neolithic Revolution started around 10,000 BC in the Fertile Crescent, a boomerang-shaped region of the Middle East, where humans first took up farming. Shortly after Stone Age, shortly after the Stone Age, humans in the other parts of the world also began to practice agriculture. And what happened that civilizations and cities grew out of innovations of the Neolithic Revolution. And what is the Neolithic Age also known as? It is also known as the New Stone Age. Now, Neolithic humans also use stone tools like the earlier Stone Age ancestors who eked out a marginal existence in small bands of hunter-gatherers during the Ice Age. Now, an important thing that we have to remember is that why is Neolithic Revolution called? Our Australian archaeologist V. Gordon Shirley coined the term Neolithic Revolution in 1935 to describe the radical and important period of change in humans because they began cultivating plants, breeding animals for food and forming permanent settlements. The advent of agriculture separated Neolithic people from the Paleolithic ancestors. Now, there are many facets of modern civilization that can be traced to this moment in history when people started living together in communities. Now, what were the causes of the Neolithic Revolution? There was no single factor as such that led humans to begin farming roughly 12,000 years ago. The causes of the Neolithic Revolution may have varied from region to region. The Earth entered a warming trend around 14,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. Some scientists theorize that climate changes drove the agricultural revolution. In the Fertile Crescent, bounded on the west by the Mediterranean Sea and on the east by the Persian Gulf, wild wheat and barley began to grow as it got warmer. Now, pre-Neolithic people called Natufians in that area, they started building permanent houses in the region as well. Other scientists suggest that intellectual advances in the human brain may have caused people to settle down, and religious artifacts and artistic imagery, progenitors of human civilization, may have been uncovered at the earliest Neolithic settlements. And the Neolithic era began when some groups of humans gave up the nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle completely to begin farming. It marked the ending of the term hunter, and it began the term the permanent settlers, that is the Neolithic Age. It may have taken humans hundreds or even thousands of years to transition fully from a lifestyle of subsisting on wild plants to keeping small gardens and later tending large crop fields. Neolithic. Now, how were the Neolithic humans? The archaeological site of Catalhoik in southern Turkey is one of the best preserved Neolithic settlements. Studying this place has given researchers a better understanding of the transition from nomadic life of the hunting and gathering to an agricultural lifestyle. Archaeologists have unearthed more than a dozen mud brick dwellings at the 9,500-year-old Catalhoik. They estimate that as many as 8,000 people may have lived here at one time, which was very huge at considering that period. The houses were clustered so closely back to back that residents had to enter the homes through a hole in the roof. The inhabitants of Catalhoek appeared to have valued art and spirituality. They buried their dead under the floors of the houses. This is very important. The walls of the homes, that is why I have given this picture. The burial system of the Neolithic age reached a different height due to the modernization. Some of the walls of the homes were even covered with murals of men hunting cattle and female goddesses. Some of the earliest evidence of farming comes from the archaeological site of Tel Abu Huraya, a small village located along the Euphrates River in modern Syria. The village was inhabited from roughly 11,500 to 7,000 BC. Inhabitants of Tel Abu Huraya initially hunted gazelle and other game. Around 9700 BC, they began to harvest wild grains. Several large stone tools for grinding grain have been found at the site. And what were the agricultural inventions? That is the most striking feature of the Neolithic age, which actually helped them becoming permanent settlers and giving up the life of the nomadic people. Plant domestication. Here we come into the next important invention, that is the cereals, as emmer wheat, corn, wheat and barley were among some of the most major crops domesticated by Neolithic farming communities in the Fertile Crescent. These early farmers also domesticated lentils, chickpeas, peas and flax. Domestication is the process by which farmers select for desirable traits by breeding successive generations of a plant or animal. Over time, a domestic species became different from its wild relative. Neolithic farmers settled for crops that harvested easily. Wild wheat, for instance, falls to the ground and shatters when it is ripe. Early humans bred for wheat that stayed on the stem for easier harvesting. So just think how much intellect they had grown by that time due to the advancement of their brain. Around the same time that farmers were beginning to sow wheat in the Fertile Crescent, people in Asia started to grow rice and millet. Scientists have discovered archaeological remnants of Stone Age rice paddies in Chinese swamps dating back at least 7700 years ago. Another important feature, livestock raising, that is the domestication of animals. Domestic pigs were bred from wild boars, for instance. Wild goats came from the Persian ibex. Domesticated animals made the hard physical labor of farming possible, while their milk and meat added variety to the human diet. They also carried infectious diseases like smallpox, influenza, and the measles, all spread from domesticated animals to humans. The first farm animals also included sheep and cattle. These originated in Mesopotamia, very important, between 10,000 and 13,000 years ago. Water buffalo and yak were domesticated shortly after in China, India, and Tibet. And Draft animals, including oxen, donkeys, and camels, appeared much later, around 4000 BC, as humans developed trade routes for transporting goods. Now, what were the effects of the Neolithic Revolution? The Neolithic Revolution led to masses of people establishing permanent settlements supported by farming and agriculture. So basically, it paved way for innovations of the next age, that is the Bronze Age, that we will study in another presentation later, and Iron Age, when advancements in creating tools for farming, wars, and art swept the world and brought civilizations together through trade and conquest. So basically, these were the most important type of age that actually was a huge step of becoming the modernized man was the Neolithic Age. So I hope I have been able to justify these three ages justly. Thank you, everyone.